Welcome in, everyone. It's a Tuesday, another edition of To The Point podcast. I'm your host, Noah Warren. This is To The Point, and today we got a fun one in store. We got some football. We're going to touch on some baseball today. Hockey right around the corner, just a week away. We're doing our second of four divisional previews in the National Hockey League. Shamus Fillmore will join me in about 25, 30 minutes. He's on the road today, but he's going to get back in time for the show. That's why Shamus the best. He's working, seeing clients, and he's out in the road, but he's getting back in time because he wants to talk about the Pacific Division. He wants to talk about the teams out west. Some interesting as I do my studying for these divisions, as I take notes on every one of them, and I get my ideas for X factors and just different reasons why I think teams will do good, or you find reasons when you're doing your study. I like certain teams more than I thought I was going to. I think they're going to be teams that are going to be funner to watch than people are giving credit for. I saw a list this morning that was on the Score. It's an interesting piece in the Score. It's well written, but he talked about a whole bunch of teams that are the unwatchable list, or the watchability rankings is what it was. A lot of teams on there I look forward to watching. Maybe that's just me. I do go against the grain, if you will, more than the average Joe, more than the average person. But there's a lot of teams on that list that I look forward to watching this season, that I think are going to be fun, that have players that are dynamic, that bring something to the table, that are not just meat and potatoes, that are not just mainstream, who are on every other night. So I'm looking forward to talking about that as well with you all in just a little bit with Shamus, because it's easy to get caught up in, well, we got to watch the Leafs or we got to watch the Oilers. That's where McDavid plays. There are hidden gems in every sport. I say that all the time. I try to find that hidden gem. That team might be crap, but they bring something to the table that I think is interesting. I'm starting to look ahead to the NHL schedule for the first Saturday afternoon, which is a week from Saturday, the first Saturday afternoon games. I love an afternoon game more than anybody on earth. Players hate to play in them. I love that they scheduled them because I still have no life. So I need something to do. You tell me you got some college football, you're going to have some MLB postseason thrown in there. You got NHL playoffs, a little Florida, Buffalo, 2 p.m. start. I'm all over it. That's a Saturday afternoon. That's done. That's wrap it up in a blanket. Perfect. Not to mention the NHL could have started this week. It's another thing I noticed that I'm just in this. I know they need another week to play 85 preseason games. My God. They should start Wednesday. Should be afternoon games this week. The fact that there isn't an NHL game on the Monday Thanksgiving here in Canada, which I'm going to save that my opinion on that, my rant, for later in the week for when we have Thanksgiving in this country, because it's stupid, it's wrong, it's just everything about it. It's like our prime minister. It's just not right. It's just not ready, right? So that's stupid. But the fact that there's no NHL game, there's no Canadian team. You want to book Toronto, Ottawa for Canadian Thanksgiving Monday? I'm all for it. You don't need to book them Saturday night. God, already seen them play twice in the preseason. But if you want to do that for Canadian Thanksgiving, I will happily watch it. Now, that'll never happen because the Leafs don't play afternoon games. But could you throw in Ottawa could play a preseason game. Could play a game on Monday. Ottawa, Carolina, a little afternoon game. Monday afternoon. I'm all for it. I got nothing else to do. I'm not working. The day off. Can't do that? That can't happen? No, of course not. Because the schedule is not out till Tuesday. That's when the season starts. You gotta start with rants today, because it's too easy that they make it more difficult than it has to be. Stupidity does not get rewarded on this show. Well, I'm doing the show, so maybe it does. But elsewhere, stupidity does not get rewarded. But Shamus and I are going to talk about the Pacific Division in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. It should be a fun conversation. We'll also talk about the Cam Talbot injury in Ottawa, which is a heartbreaker for the Ottawa Senators, how they're going to deal with it. And Matthew Barzal. It's a long-term extension from the New York Islanders today. Didn't hear anything about this in the media. You rarely do from the Islanders, but he was never discussed. He was a year away from being a restricted free agent. Reportedly didn't love being an Islander. It's funny how much you love it when somebody throws $9.15 million at you, but it's also funny that another team could sign a player to a contract less than $10 million. Touch on that a little bit. Before Shamus gets on here, let's talk some football. Monday Night Football. We had a good game last night. Rams at the Niners. Matthew Stafford and the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, the Los Angeles Rams, against pornstar Jimmy and the San Francisco 49ers. It's 4 weeks into the NFL season, and that means we're a quarter way through. And there's so many teams that I don't have a good read on yet. I don't know what they are. For instance, what I can divulge, what I can dissect, what I can peer into is that the Los Angeles Rams are very predictable and they're very structured on offense. Now, structured can be a good term. You know, if you're structured in life, if you have a good routine, you go to the gym, you're fit, you whatever you do, you're structured. You know what you're doing every night. You watch a show before you go to bed. You don't touch your phone for 30 minutes before you sleep. You sleep 7 to 8 hours like a normal human should. Then you're in good shape, right? You're a structured life, but that's pretty healthy. So that normally that's a good term. However, I like an offense that's a little unstructured. If you watch the Kansas City Chiefs Sunday evening, they don't really have a structured offense. They have a team that can be very off kilter. That can be very loose when it comes to structure. They don't care about structure. They will do whatever they want. They will go off kilt, they'll go off script, and normally it works out for Patrick Mahomes. You watch the Los Angeles Rams in offense, you know what they're going to do. You know that Cooper Kupp's going to get a lot of targets. He had 20 last night, 14 catches. You know that the Los Angeles Rams are going to run the ball on first down if they ever run the ball. Predictable, structured, planned. And you know that Matthew Stafford is going to run 1 million play-action bootlegs a game. And eventually, even if your defense is shallow and pedantic, you'll figure it out. You'll be, well, I've seen this play a few times already. And then you might blitz. You might bring the middle linebacker through. You might get a solo shot from a Nick Bosa. And before you know it, for the upteenth time, the defense sees a bootleg and they're like, you know what? That ball's not going to Cam Akers. Let's converge on the quarterback. Well, that happened last night. How many times did we see Matthew Stafford hold the ball out to the right, cut back, he still got the football? He doesn't have the ability like a Josh Allen to fake it a little bit. Even a Daniel Jones, I think, is very good at it, where he has the deception you don't know if he has the football. Does he have it? Does the running back have it? Does Saquon have it? Does Danny Dimes? Second touchdown of the game on Sunday for the Giants. That's exactly why they scored it, because the Bears defense thought it went to Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones ran in for the score. Last night was predictable offense against an elite defense. You can't be predictable. You can't be pedestrian against a bunch of an elite great players. Looking at that San Francisco defense, Nick Bosa is one of the best players at his position in the NFL, period. Fred Warner is the best middle linebacker in football, period. Emmanuel Mosley continues to get better. He had a hell of a night last night. This defense is full of some studs. Trey Greenlaw, you deserve a clap after last night because you played your tail off. 14 tackles, right in Matthew Stafford's face. This defense came to play. They did not allow a touchdown last night. They allowed 9 points for the entire game. Not to mention, they got a pick six at the end of the game, just to make sure the Rams didn't cover. The San Francisco 49ers looked like the team of old, looked like the team last year that got to the NFC Championship game. Because what did we see? We saw pornstar Jimmy Garoppolo on offense doing what he does. Having some good passes, throwing to Juwan Jennings, which I love to see. Mr. Third down, finally getting the ball on third down. Juwan Jennings had the most catches on third down that ended up being a first down last season in the NFL. He had 2 last night. Go back to him. He's a good receiver. So he made some smart decisions. Got the ball out quick. Then we also saw some crazy Jimmy throws that could have been intercepted. Behind a pass to Charlie Warner, way behind him. That should have been a big play. Didn't work out. A pass to Deebo Samuel that easily could have been picked, but it ends up in Deebo's hands, and the Los Angeles Rams defense is out to lunch, and he goes to the house. We saw it all last night, but that's the 49ers. Great defense and elite talent around Jimmy Garoppolo. Deebo Samuel and George Kittle are 2 of the best players at their positions. Nick Bosa is one of the best players at his position. Fred Warner is the best player at his position. Trent Williams, when healthy, is the best left tackle in football. That's some of the best players in the league. And you surround him with a quarterback that's average. That's what Jimmy is. He's average, but average can win you football games. Average has won his last 7 starts in the regular season against Matthew Stafford. Jimmy Garoppolo was 7-0 in the regular season against Matthew Stafford in his career. Never lost to Matthew Stafford. 2 times in Los Angeles last year. 3-0 with Stafford as a Los Angeles Ram for pornstar Jimmy. That's domination. Finds a way to win. Stafford's a better quarterback, but yet the San Francisco has so much talent. So much talent. And that's why I had them going to the Super Bowl before the year started. Because I love their team. I had Chiefs Niners. Because I look at that team, I say, they have no weaknesses. Could corner be better? Okay. But they played against the Rams last night. They did not allow a touchdown. 3 trips to the red zone. 0 touchdowns allowed. How about 3 sacks on third down? How about a pick 6? They only took 4 penalties. This defense is legit. Pornstar didn't turn the ball over. Best thing I can say about him last night. Didn't. Was efficient. Made some questionable throws like he always will, but he managed the game. That's what he has to do. He's a game manager. That's not a term that's not a disrespectful term. That's what he is as a quarterback. He's a game manager. But he's a game manager that can game manage you to a win. That's why the 49ers are in better shape now than they were with Trey Lance. Because Trey Lance is an unknown. Could he get better? Yes. But he's a raw rookie. And Pornstar has played so many games in this league. He knows what he's doing. He's been there, done that. Super Bowl, NFC Championship games, the biggest stages, he's done it. Not to mention you're doing it in San Francisco. That doesn't get brought up enough. You're doing it in San Francisco in front of people that demand winning. In the NFL, playing for San Francisco is like playing in Dallas. It's like being a New England Patriot. You expect to win. The 1990s, it was the Niners, it was the Cowboys. Back and forth. Both teams are great. Joe Montana, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, the playmaker. Prime. You had All these greats going back and forth, but that bred a generation of winning. Since we saw Colin Kaepernick roll through, got to a Super Bowl, blackballed from the league. Pornstar's been through. Now Kyle Shanahan's trying to return the winning ways to San Francisco. Bill Walsh isn't there anymore, but Kyle Shanahan is the next great one. Trying to do what his dad did in Denver, and that's win Super Bowls. I like this San Francisco team. They're really good. Kittle didn't get going, but he helped the run game last night. Jeff Wilson got better as the game went along. He had a rushing touchdown. He found the holes when he needed to. But they have so much talent. They can play some good football over the next couple weeks. They got the Panthers this weekend in Carolina. Very much a winnable game. The Panthers, you could argue, have been the worst offensive team in the NFL after 4 weeks. They can go to Carolina and win. It's no guarantee, but they certainly can. The way they played last night, they'll win in Carolina. You can survive a few weeks with Trent Williams on the shelf. That offensive line held up last night. Garoppolo took a sack or two, but you limited Aaron Donald's production. The pass rush for the Rams didn't look all that explosive. They missed Von Miller. Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald need to find another gear. Greg Gaines, somebody else needs to step up on that defensive line. But for the Rams, Odell Beckham Jr. is recovering from a torn ACL. I haven't heard a peep from an insider what his health status is. I don't think he's ready to play yet. I seen him tweeting this weekend about Aaron Rodgers, about how good he was. OBJ is a lot of things. He's not stupid. He wants to create a bidding war for himself, which I don't blame him. Do I think he wants to go back to the Rams the most? Yeah, I do. But if the Bills found money, do I think he'd consider it? I do, because Vaughn's there. Josh Allen's there. I think he's got a healthy level of respect for Stephon Diggs. I think he'd consider it. Do I think he'd consider Green Bay? Yeah, but I don't think he'd ultimately choose Green Bay because I don't think he wants to play in freezing-ass Green Bay, Wisconsin with nothing going on. Los Angeles has everything. He can play good football, compete for a title, and still have the limelight, still have the attention on him. Because they need him. Tyler Higbee had a huge game last night at tight end. He had 5 catches in the first quarter, ended up with 10 receptions last night, career high. And Cooper Kupp had 14 for over 100 yards. But Tyler Higbee is the second receiver on this team. Allen Robinson, the guy they brought in to be that number 2 to replace OBJ, he had 2 catches for 7 yards. He was a non-factor in this game. Targeted 3 times, targeted in the end zone, couldn't score a touchdown on the play. Great play by Tre'Davious Ward. But he is not creating separation. He's not a part of the offense. And they're searching for answers because I mentioned it's just bootleg. And Ben Skoranek, who's a wide receiver by trade, is now playing fullback for this Rams offense. I love a bootleg offense, but it only works when you rush, when you have a good running attack. Teams aren't going to buy it when you run for 40 yards last night. Cam Akers, 8 carries. Darrell Henderson, 7 carries. Nothing. Henderson had 27 rushing yards that led the team. That's not going to cut it. Teams aren't going to bite on your fakes when you know you're not presenting any threat. You're not running past anybody. You're not doing anything like that because you have nobody that can rush the football. So I look at the Rams offense and Van Jefferson is going to come back. He's coming back from injury. Well, Van Jefferson, like you said, after 4 weeks, I don't know a whole lot about teams. What I know about Van Jefferson's career is that he's consistently inconsistent. He drops a lot of footballs that you want him to catch. It's kind of like Marquise Hollywood Brown. Hollywood's had a good start so far with Kyler Murray, but do I trust him on a game in, game out basis? I don't. Because I've seen him drop too many damn balls for me to trust somebody like him. So, just the Rams' offense lacks something. Their offensive line, not great. Injury after injury on that offensive line. It's beaten and battered every week. There's something that happens. They lose They lose Brian Allen, the center, early in the year. They lose a guard last night. Shelton, the backup center, gets injured last night for the Rams. They had to bring in the practice squad center to come in. So you have an offensive line that's beaten up. You have two targets, really, but one's a tight end that you wouldn't want to be your number two. He's not George Kittle. He's not Travis Kelce type tight end. I mean, Cooper Kupp is doing all of this, and they know that the ball's going to him. That's how damn good he is. He's still getting 14 catches, and the defense knows damn well he's the only guy they can throw to. And Matthew Stafford isn't playing good football. Jimmy Garoppolo outplayed Matthew Stafford last night. Now, did Jimmy Garoppolo have a cleaner pocket? Yes. Did Matthew Stafford have way more pressure on him? Absolutely. But that doesn't change the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo outplayed him. Doesn't change the facts that Jimmy Garoppolo found a way to win a game at home. And when one quarterback is 7-0 against another, it tells you something. Kyle Shanahan has not had the killer instinct in big playoff games. He's been to a Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator in Atlanta, blew a 28-3 lead. Went to a Super Bowl in San Francisco, had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Kansas City Chiefs. He lost that game. But what we know about Kyle Shanahan in the regular season, he's pretty damn good at his job. Offensively, he can create plays that lead to success. He can find a running back that you've never heard of, and he can create a success story. Elijah Mitchell last year, he's injured. Now Jeff Wilson is his replacement. He's having a pretty good start to his season. But if this offensive line can continue to get better for San Francisco, if Deebo Samuel can continue to be a focal point of this offense, this team is so special, talent-wise. They are so dangerous. I love Deebo. I love Kittle. I love Juwan. Brandon Ayuk is still a mystery to me. He could be used more. He needs to be used more. He's so athletic. He's so creative. He's incredibly shifty. And he's not used to his full power in this San Francisco offense. Kyle needs to find a way to put him in more. And I mean, their defense is just a bunch of buzzsaws. A bunch of guys that are ready to take your head off. They are physical bunch. And if you come into a game and you're not ready for a fight, they're going to give you one. Matthew Stafford has to be hurting this morning because he got his ass kicked last night. Nick Bosa, all 6 sacks on Stafford. He took 7 sacks week 1. He took 6 last night. I believe he took 3 in week 2, and he took 2 last week. He's getting sacked more than Joe Burrow. Andrew Whitworth is working for Amazon. I'm sure Matthew Stafford wishes he could send him a text and say, please come back. I need you to protect my blind side. I got nobody that can do it right now. And teams aren't just giving out offensive linemen for free. Good ones, you keep them, even if you're on a bad team. That's what happens. It's hard to find. You need to secure them. You need to lock them up. Joe Thomas, who's going to be in Canton, going to be in the Hall of Fame. He played, I believe, 12 seasons in the NFL. He was an all-pro, 9 of them. But he played for the Cleveland Browns every season of his career. He never played in a playoff game. Bad teams still hold on to great players because if you ever found some talent, you need a good offensive line. You know you're going to get that from him. Joe Thomas was going to give you that. Whitworth, why was he so valuable in Los Angeles? Because he was really consistent. You know what you're going to get the left tackle position. You knew your quarterback was going to be safe. Trent Williams, same thing. Why does San Francisco pay him more money at his advanced age? Because he's damn good when he's in the lineup. Look around the league. Rashawn Slater, taken high in the draft by the Chargers. Why? Because he's a generational left tackle. He's an all-pro as a rookie. You find that position of strength, you secure it. But the Rams, you had trouble this week. You go from one elite defense, looking ahead to week 5, to another. You got the Cowboys on Sunday in America's Game of the Week. Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, my boy, Dante Fowler Jr., who's starting to burst onto the scene, Donovan Wilson, another guy who's playing fantastic football for the Cowboys. That defense is legit, and that offensive line is weak sauce. They proved it last night. You got Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days to prep. You got 5 days coming off a short week to figure out how you're going to stop this Dallas defense. The Rams, I don't think they're going to panic. But I do think they are a little concerned with their position right now. Because they're looking at the Cowboys, and they know what's coming. They know there's a bunch of beasts coming at them. A team full of men that are confident. It doesn't matter that it's Cooper Rush at quarterback. It doesn't matter that Dak Prescott's on the shelf, that their wide receivers aren't that great. They're a team that believes that they can win. And they got a bunch of elite defensive talent in front of them. Can't blame them. Dangerous position for the Rams. They have time to figure this out. It can happen. They didn't have a perfect regular season last year. But they did have better weapons. They did have a number 2 receiver. They replaced Robert Woods the second he got injured. Van Jefferson, I don't know. The running game, non-existent. It's a predictable offense. And when you're predictable, it's easier to game plan for. Looking for tells on tape? Well, every play is a bootleg. Every play is a play action. And you saw many times last night, San Francisco knew it was coming and they blew it up before it even got started. Stafford's playing. He's got the most interceptions in the NFL. He's getting sacked the most in the NFL. This team is potentially in trouble. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do because they got the Cowboys in 5 days. And Cooper Rush might not be the issue, but that Dallas defense certainly can be. See, we got on the horn here. Fresh off his trip to see clients, looking fresh in that. I think it's an Eddie Bauer type look there. It's
you caught me off guard. I'm sorry. I'm fixing this 1 second.
How was the day visiting the clients back in going up the Sussex way?
Sorry about that, my friend. I thought I had a spare second to
problem.
Get my fixins. Just
You
totally unprepared today. No, yeah, a little trip to the client today. So unfortunately, coming in here a little later than I'd like. But no, it's good with you. How's you and your luscious flows going on there? This is just a mound, as they say.
Yeah, it's there. Some people are a fan. Some people hate it. In my circle,
what's your take?
I'm enjoying it. I there's times I'm like, yeah, let's cut this, but then, I give the people that want to cut what they want. And as you know, my personality, I hate to do that. So I hate to give in to the man, so to speak. So yeah, it's a little give and take right now, but it's here for now. I'm not saying it'll be here in 2 3 weeks, but it's here for now.
All right, I'm a fan if that matters or
Oh,
not.
thank you. I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. And you know fashion better than people critiquing my hair, so that comes more from you than it does from them.
Yeah.
Were you up in Sussex today, visiting clients, or in the St. John area?
In the St. John area, yeah, just outside of St. John. Today was the first day, and this always gives me a little cringe. I know you love the cold, but today was the first day I had to go start my car before get that little warm up. You know how it's a little icy, a little frost.
Mhm.
That bothered me. That bothered me today. Yeah, so that was interesting. It's always bad when that was the first time. Early October.
Yeah, that's wow. You had to start the car. I didn't know it was that cold this morning.
It was. I don't know about where you were at, but it was freezing. Well, I must have been at least in the minuses last night because my car, like I said, just need that little spark. You know me, I like the warm though. I'm in that thing warm. Put the seat warmers on already. Blasting the hot air,
Right,
cruising.
right. Yeah, I still got the shorts on for now, but
I'm surprised.
we'll see. I like the coat or the sweater. I like
Oh,
that look.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, that's something I got this summer. Just kept
Just,
keeping it semi-professional. I don't like to dress up too much, when I don't have to. So that was nice. But this is a decent look for if you're doing a little business casual.
is it
Throwing
Eddie
pics out here
Bauer?
to all you people watching.
Is it Eddie Bauer?
You're correct. Yeah, it is Eddie Bauer. Yeah,
Good.
spot on.
All right. Well, I'm glad I picked out something. I normally somebody says, and I'll say like Patagonia, and they're like, "No, it's for Versace or something," So then I've instantly offended them. So that's I'm glad that I was able to pick that one off.
Yeah.
Before we get going, what have you made of your least preseason thus far?
Good. Yeah, yeah. No, no. There's some highlights and some low lights. Obviously, yeah, it's so tough because I don't, and this is maybe a dig at some of the other teams. I don't feel like they've played too many strong, even preseason teams.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's always going to be a star here or there, but I really feel like they're pulling out of like even last night playing Marner with Nylander, and I believe they played them with Bunting.
Hmm.
That's a like I don't know. I'd almost like to see. I know you want to get that chemistry going early, but I'd almost like to see them play with other players like if you're playing maybe Nylander with Nick Robertson, which seems to be a high possibility. He has 3 points last night.
Hmm.
He's playing good, well offensively. He's not playing well defensively, which I think that's just going to be his game. I don't really think there's any way past it. But as of now, he's still worked he's still worked himself a spot on the team, or at least staying for a little longer into this next week, I guess. What are your thoughts? I guess.
Yeah, I got a main hatred for the league with the way they set up their preseason. The Leafs start their season against Montreal a week from Wednesday. Why are they playing Montreal 4 times in the preseason? That's one gripe.
Right.
But it's happening in Tampa. They're playing Carolina 4 times. Go outside your division. COVID's over. Travel. Play some other teams. That's my one gripe. But your Leafs, they've looked good. Montreal's look god awful. I've watched them play a few
I
times. They
agree.
haven't played like God. They look terrible. But it's hard to gauge. As you know, I know Nick Robertson, one of my favorite guys, is having a real good preseason.
Yeah.
Does that mean he's going to be good in the regular season? Not at all. I've seen too
Yeah.
many preseason Warriors to really think he's going to be great. But I will say, this is an early prediction. I think he'll be on the second line wing to start the season
I do
for the
too.
Leafs. I just think he's had a good enough preseason to earn that, and he could be in the minors 4 games in. But I think he'll be on the wing with likely Bill Nylander playing center. Even though I hate that idea, but I think they'll start with Nylander at center and they'll plug in another winger on that
Yeah,
line.
even Kerfoot in the center, and then Nylander is a likely option just because they don't have many guys like you don't want to move David Camp up to a second line center role because he can't sustain that, and he's just not going to provide the offense they need. But Yeah, I mean, and that does that sound attractive? Like, do you really want your second line to be Kerfoot and Robertson, two guys who I'm not going to say are, I don't want to say I would say this slightly. They're not big bodies and they're not
No,
diggers, but they are just okay. If anything, to me right now they're at a third line level, both of them, and now you're trying to ask them to do things they probably not competent enough to do. But it all depends. Maybe Nylander plays out of his mind for the first couple weeks until JT makes it back, and then that's fine.
right.
That's what you want if you're a Leafs fan.
Yeah, Kerfoot. I'd rather have Kerfoot because I've seen Nylander play center and it just doesn't work. And that's not his
Mm-hmm.
fault. He's a winger, so he's playing out of position. I don't. That's just it doesn't fit him. The one thing that you could consider doing, I see them putting Marner on defense, which stupidity to me,
Yeah.
but put him at center. I've never seen him play center. Could he do
Yeah.
it? He's a great skater. You can break him up. Him and Matthews can, not divorce, but separate for a few weeks just to try it. It's another look that you have a chance to. You got some easy opponents on paper to start the year. You
Mm-hmm.
got Montreal, then you got Washington on a back to back, and you got Ottawa minus Talbot in your first three games. So I think these first couple weeks should be an experimental type period for Toronto, just in case some of these veterans who are often injured at inopportune times go down later in the season.
Yeah, and I think Keefe would be okay with that. Okay with mixing up his lines like he does normally. It's not uncommon for him to throw Nylander or John Tavares up with the big boys sometimes. So, and like you said, Marner does have experience playing a little bit of center in the OHL. So
Yeah.
it's not like he's going to be totally new to that position either. So I think that's a good idea, and it definitely breaks out everything. You can maybe move Nylander up if that helps replace him, and then Marner can carry his own line, kind of like a McDavid and Draisaitl type situation where they both carry their own lines.
Must be happy with Matt Murray. Vesna
I take that with a grain of salt. He looks good. He looks good, but let's hope that he looks good continuing on in a couple weeks and
right.
not just now. I think that's the biggest thing is not getting staying level headed and not getting too high or low about anything at this point of the year because there's no point in doing so.
How panicked would you be if you were an Ottawa Senators fan right now? 1 to 10.
Oh, I'm a 7. Yeah, I'm a 7 or 8. I think because losing Talbot, who and yeah, you still have Forsberg, but Forsberg's kind of the fringe
He's a
slash.
two.
Yeah, he's a 2. He knows he's a 2 too. I don't know. It's difficult. Have they lost anybody else, or is that maybe that's the only injury I've seen? Is
Only big injury, but the reason I kind of broached it, Shay, is this team is and this is actually true. The last 4 years, they are the worst starting team in the NHL. Combined
really?
records, they are 22 games below 500 the last 4 years in their first 20 games, which is horrible. And that was when there's the COVID year in there and things happened. The team wasn't that great, but now you got a waiver wire goalie, Hellberg from Seattle. You get cut the second week of camp in Seattle. You can't be that great. And then you also got, like you said, Forsberg, who's a 2, who will likely start 95% of the team's first 20 games, if not more.
Yeah, it's a mess, and it's okay if it's covered by great defenders, but it's not like they have any great defenders to cover up that gouge that you've just slashed. Is there a timeline on when Talbot comes back? Is he like a few weeks or is he like
Five,
months?
5 to 7 weeks.
Yeah, that's concerning. That also put a damper on my predictions last week, where I thought they were going to finally start well and then continue well.
Yeah.
But now I'm kind of at the outs with that. I have Boston. If I could redo that list, I'd have Boston, well over them. So yeah, I think it's going to put a damper on their season. As good as they play offensively, I think it's just going to always be, they're always just going to be trying to catch their team, the team they're playing against offensively, because they're just not going to be able to keep up defensively.
Yeah, that's a tough blow for them. Like you said, I think get the Chikrin angle, it gets even more compelling because I think Chikrin going to Ottawa makes a lot of sense because they need him. I think they got the prospects to trade.
Yeah.
and he would help them right away. And Arizona's a dumb enough team; they would trade him today. They wouldn't worry about hoping to save face to fill that 5,000 seat arena in the first couple weeks. They know they're going to be bad. They want to get Connor Bedard, and I think they'd trade him to Ottawa in 5 minutes if the right deal came along.
Yeah, yeah, that's something you got to pounce on it for Ottawa if you want any hope of saving your season. Because I mean, he is what he is. He's a good two-way defender who brings a lot of offense. He'd be great as the second line guy. Put him behind Chabot. Chabot could be your first line power play guy, and then he could be that second power play guy, and also be a PKer. So yeah, I agree. It'd be something because like right now, like I said earlier, they're dead. Their blue line depth is really struggling. We said this last week as well, so it's not a surprise to anyone listening.
What have you been following the TSN top 50 players list?
I try to zone it out. And then I look through. Like I usually don't look at it, and then finally when it's revealed, I look at it all. Has it the full 1 to 50 come out yet?
I think we're down to 21. So the next 2 days we'll get
Yeah,
to the top. Yeah. So
like
we
how
got
they usually do it.
20 players left.
Surprise? Any names 20 and above surprise you?
Yeah, there's always a few that just perplex me. Patrick Kane was not in the top 20. Surprised me.
Oh, he's above 20. He's 20 to
Mhm.
50. Really?
He's 22.
That's shocking. Okay,
Yes.
this is a good question. Was Jack Eichel in the 20 to 50?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's
33, I believe.
okay. So he's hovering around. They're both hovering right around the top 25 mark then.
Yes.
That's interesting. So is there any names on that list that weren't on there that you're thinking, oh, they're going to put this guy, say 10 to 20?
Yeah, thinking ahead, I was looking at it, and so Kane's gone, and that was a big one for me. Pasternak wasn't in the top 20. That pissed me off. Marchand wasn't in the top 20, which,
Wow.
yeah, he was 24 or 25. Him and Pasternak were right aligned. So now I'm trying to figure out, obviously, I know if you're going to see McDavid in there, you're going to see Draisaitl
Yeah.
and
Easily.
Matthews, Marner. There's got to be a player that makes no sense to be that high. And I'm wondering if it's going to be Morgan Riley.
Wow.
I haven't
That
seen him yet. I haven't seen him yet, and I don't think he's a top 50 player. But this is not me. I haven't seen him, and I'm starting to wonder if he's going to creep into that top 20 for one reason or another.
even my bias, I could make a list and he might crack a top 50 for me, but he would in no way in hell, I think for most league fans, crack a top 20. So if he's in there, it totally, I mean, it just ruins the reputation. Like we've seen this in the past. You've brought it up every year. We talk about this list, right? And
Mm,
it seems like every year it even gets a little bit more ridiculous. Like I think one year they left Jonathan Taves off the
yeah,
list.
they
Maybe
did.
it might have been like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was when Taves was seemingly still in his prime, and it just gets so ridiculous because it's like how much of a homer can you be for your own boys?
Do you think Elias Pettersson was in the top 50?
No.
He was not.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
Do you think Brady Kachuk was?
Yes.
He was not. He's
He was
51.
not in the top. Okay. I can
51.
see. You know what though? Like I can see him cracking the list in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
Maybe
I agree.
the
I
team
was
he
fine
played
with that.
for.
Yeah,
The
I
team he
was
played for.
I was cool with that. I think he's right there. Like you said, he's so close, and guys are interchangeable. Do you think Mark Scheifele was in the top 50?
I'm gonna say no.
No, he was not.
Okay.
Not. He
That's
was left off for the first time in a while.
yeah.
Kyle
That's
Connor was in the top 25, which made sense. He's a
yeah.
great player.
It is.
Great player. Yeah, I'm interested to see the top 20. And doing this, I think next week we should both unveil our top 10.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good to me. I'm
The
down.
night season beginning, I'm sure we'll have some different angles. I have my 7 done. I'm still picking out my final 3. That's the tough part of it for me. I have my 7, But the last three, 8 to 10, is a tough. To,
We should even do, and this doesn't have to be now, and this can be into the season, but we should do like almost a little like who we think is going to finish, say, top 5 in points. They're not necessarily the best players, but
right,
obviously, you had Matthew Tkachuk last year who
right,
bounced
yeah,
and had this 100-point year. You know what I mean? Like guys, you see
absolutely.
different matchups and you see different things. I think we should do something like that too, where it's like, okay, this guy is going to, because for example, I'm trying to think of somebody
To
like
brink
maybe
at
what's that?
like to brink at or somebody like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, someone who just pops up, or someone who takes that second leap, like we saw Kaprizov do from year 1 to year 2, and
Right.
they end up making this list. Same with a guy like JT Miller who exploded. You know what I mean? So
How
we could do.
high do you think JT Miller was?
I'd say, was he in the top 50? I think he'd be. I'm going to say 30 to 40.
He was in the 20s.
No way, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was high for me. Like that was an
that's
overreaction to 1 year.
yeah, I agree.
He's a good player, but if he has a terrible year this year, I wouldn't be shocked. And I like him a lot, but I wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of secured the bag. He's kind of safe now. It's not like he's playing for a contract. It's like, okay, like I can kind of return that back to my normal self. But
Right.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure we'll get into that conversation too as we break down the Pacific.
Yeah, so yeah, next week we'll do our top 10 and we'll do that breakout seasons as well. We'll do
Okay.
that too. So yeah, I like that. So yeah, the preview show for the season next Tuesday with the puck drop next Tuesday night in the 2022-2023 NHL season with Rangers, Lightning, followed by Los Angeles, Vegas, I believe, on the first night. So
Yeah.
two games on the Tuesday night, and then we have a packed slate of games on the Wednesday. So yeah,
And
what do
some
you?
hockey this week, I guess. You think about it. I mean, it's only the Euro games, but they still count in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, the Euro games.
The the good old Euro games. They're a lot of fun for
On into Saturday afternoon, I wonder. I'll
yeah.
watch.
It's Friday and Saturday afternoons.
All right, all
Yeah,
right, all
it's
right, all
something.
right,
It's
all
something.
right. Okay, okay, I'll watch it. Yeah, okay. All right, I'll bite. I'll watch the Euro game. Well, it's not preseason for Christ's sake, but well, they shouldn't have preseason games the same day as the Euro game. Nobody's gonna know.
Yeah, that's bad advertising. I mean, I looked it up and I saw, oh, like these games are like, and obviously we talked about this previously about having them different from the regular so they get the more attention. But yeah, I feel like you got to have a cut. Like it's like, okay, preseason,
Yeah.
automatic start to the season, do these silly little Euro games, and then you know move it to there. I get it. It's to grow the game, go over the countries. Oh, like if you're from Czech or Finland, you don't get to see these players play, and now you can see them live. But
Mhm.
still, sometimes it feels a little useless.
Yeah, I mean, but you see the success of the NFL in London, and you kind of look like, well, maybe that's at the end. Yeah, this could work. Sold out crowd for the Vikings Saints game Sunday morning at 10:30, which I watched every snap of because why not? Why not?
I forgot it was a thing. I didn't even know until late.
Double doink, interesting game. Little interesting little Saints. Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, just launching it out there. So
And
let's go to the.
oh, I think you hit mute.
A lot of people have been asking me to do that for a long time, so I got like get what they wanted for a second. Pacific Division is interesting, and
Yes.
there's the haves and the have-nots, and it's kind of clear to see the difference between the two. Where do you want to start on these on in the Pacific Division?
You just want to go in alphabetical order, like for
Sure,
the thing. So starting
sure.
with Anaheim and then going. I have Anaheim, Calgary, and Edmonton. Is that okay with you?
Yep, that's
I
that's
don't.
good with me.
Okay.
So Anaheim, a team who is in transition, still rebuilding. But they had a pretty active offseason. They added John Klingberg on a 1 year deal after his agent and himself failed to land a long-term deal and losing me a bet to you. They added Ryan Strome on a long-term contract who comes over from the New York Rangers after a very successful stint there. They also had Frank Vetrano coming from the New York Rangers who had a solid postseason. And Nathan Beaulieu signed a couple days ago off his PTO. It's a year for me, Shay. I look at this Anaheim team of development and for young guys to get better while they continue to build prospects and look ahead to the future.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. Another development year for them. I don't think there's any expectation for them to make the playoffs. They got off to that hot start last year where they led the division for quite a while, and then
Yeah.
obviously it felt like they had to trail away, trading away guys like Josh Manson and other major pieces. But yeah, no, obviously it's a development year, and it should be. Why are you gonna go all in, grab pieces, and try and make the playoffs just to lose to a team like Colorado in the first round? Doesn't make any sense. You keep Zegras moving forward. You're going to see Mason McTavish
Mm-hmm.
underway. Jamie Drysdale's a huge part of this young core that's going to move forward. He needs to take multiple steps in order to become that, I would say, second D man behind Cam Fowler. Um, Big guy I was thinking of, and at first I thought, oh, he could be a great trade piece for this team, is Jacob Silverberg. Then I looked at his stats, Juggy, and he's been awful these last 2 years. I think I
Yeah.
just completely missed him because from what I remember, this guy was a solid 40, 50-point winger with a good shot, but now he just seems like he's fallen off the face of the earth, still making about 5.25. Is there any other guys that maybe you see getting dished from this team? As obviously they're not trying to make the playoffs.
I look at Adam Henrique, who's in the last year of his deal. He's a guy that's a veteran that I think teams would inquire on. We saw he fought in the preseason to defend Trevor Zegras. I
Yeah.
just think he's a leader. He's not as good as he once was, but he's been to a Stanley Cup final. He's got that experience. And if his contract's expiring, I think a team would acquire him. John Gibson, he's still an Anaheim Duck. It's like he's been traded 4 times, but yet he remains in Anaheim. This happened with Josh Manson as well, where Josh Manson went through trade deadline after trade deadline. Eventually, he does end up going to Colorado, as you just mentioned, wins the Stanley Cup. If you're Anaheim, you're out of it. A team is desperate. I think you look to trade John Gibson because I think the return could be great, and I think that's something they need to look at this year if they're in the right position.
Yeah, it's just for me, it's so scared because you never know when you're going to get another decent goaltender, right? We
Yeah.
talk about the scarcity and finding these number one guys who are reliable. And you think about Josh Gibson. For me, when I was thinking about him, I think about the run that Anaheim went in when they beat Edmonton. I think it was Connor McDavid's second year into the
Yep.
league. They were able to take them down, make it to the conference final, and lose to the Winnipeg Jets. And he was young then, but he still is a capable goaltender, and he's proven that he has playoff success. I think you have to. It'd be a big ticket to in order to get this guy, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you get a lot back, and that's what I think Anaheim would be willing to part with if you can get a big return for this guy. If you can get multiple prospects, you get a first round pick, things like that would pique my interest because you got Zegras, yes, you hope McTavish can develop, but you just lost Ryan Getzlaf. He was a part of your team for 15 years. He was the voice of your organization. You knew what you're going to get year in, year out from him, which was great, just pretty well greatness. You need to find that next person. Hopefully Mason can do that. I wish Ryan was playing this year to play 1 year with Mason, quite honestly, because I think one of Mason's biggest flaws is his attention to detail, where he can fade in and out of games. He doesn't always give maximum effort. And I don't think Getzlaf would have stood for that. But Getzlaf's still with the organization, so he might be able to mentor him from the press box.
That's true. Yeah, I could see him taking on a role that allows him to still have his hands within the team, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time not be able to play. I don't think he's a guy. He's not a Mike Fisher who comes back,
No, no.
midway season, not on a team that's like losing. I'm going to do a couple over and unders for you, and I'll let you, and then you can explain why or why not these guys would hit.
Okay.
Both of these guys also in their last years of their contracts, moving into becoming RFAs. Trevor Zegras, 75 points, over under.
It's a good one. It's a good number. Timmy Stutzla, who I think is better than Zegras, hasn't gotten to that plateau yet. I'm going to go under for Zegras. I think
Okay.
he'll get 60, but 75 is tough. That's almost point per game. I'm going to go under.
Okay. Troy Terry, other guy,
Yeah.
37 goals last year. Does he get 30 this year? Over under?
Somebody's got to score.
Not
I'll
old,
say
bro.
I think he'll get 30. I don't think he'll get as many
Okay.
as he did last year.
But he still hits that?
I still think he'll get there because, like I said, somebody's got to score on this team. They got a bunch of young guys, and you got some older people.
Right.
A guy I expect to bounce back is Maxime Comtois. He had a
Right.
terrible year last year. I still think he's a really good player, and he could be a trade piece, or he could be a guy that you bring back long term. But yeah, I think Troy Terry will get to 30 goals.
Okay. Okay. What about Comtois? This is a guy who I don't even think he got 20 last year.
No.
Does he pump 25, 30 points for you?
Oh yeah, over.
Over that?
I
Okay.
think he gets 45 to 50 this year. I think he'll
So
have a good
it's a major bounce back year
major
for him.
bounce back. Yeah, it was just off from the beginning last. He didn't score a goal until December, so I think he was just snake bitten from the beginning. His confidence dipped, but I think he'll have a bounce back year for Anaheim. And honestly, I'd put him on a line with Ryan Strome. I put him on the wing, and I put him with Strome because Strome can pass. He's a good passer. Yes, he played with Artemi. I'm not going to give a shit every night, Panarin, but he's also a guy that gave Panarin a lot of good windows to score a lot of goals in New York.
Yes, hopefully good things coming from the future from this team.
But yeah,
go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just going to move on and say we should go to Calgary, but if you have another note,
Nope.
sure.
No, we can go to Calgary.
Okay, the Calgary Flames, by far the busiest team probably in the offseason of any. Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, Mackenzie Weidner. They picked up Kevin Rooney from New York, fourth line, Rick Reiner. Yeah, well, I mean, good coaching. Obviously,
Yep.
Daryl Sutter was unbelievable last year. Seems to just have that touch in him. They have a great tender. Markstrom's first year to second year, and Calgary's been unbelievable, posting a 222 goals against and 922 save percentage. Tougher to play against. I think that's the key aspect of what made Calgary so good last year. Mm-hmm. They're just tougher to play against. They've got grit. They've got big bodies. You think about that third pairing of Gabranson and Zadorov. Those guys are massive, massive bodies. And that was their third pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that explodes right to their bottom six. So, yeah, what do you think of the pieces that are added, and where do you think they lie moving forward?
Yeah, my big X factors: can Kadri be Tkachuk, and can Huberdeau be Gaudreau? Obviously, because you're replacing those two guys. Kadri had 87 points last year. I think he'll get under that this season. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a productive season. I think he'll be under his goal total. He had a great year. He got his contract. I still think he'll be productive in Calgary, but he won't be a 90-point player because he never was a 90-point player. He's more of a 65 to 75-point guy for me. We'll see what he can do this year. Huberdeau and Lindholm, super intriguing to me. Lindholm, I know we both have this opinion. I've been a Elias Lindholm fanboy for a long time. I was tired of him not getting his due in Carolina. He comes to Calgary. You hear about Johnny Gaudreau. You hear about Matthew Tkachuk. I said, bullshit. He's the straw that stirs the drink on that line. He's the best player on this team. He continues to show it. I think these two guys could build off career seasons and duplicate it for the both of them because I think their games mesh together so well.
And one of the best contracts too, under $5 million for Elias Lindholm just seems – it almost seems illegal. You almost
you're stealing money.
It's like they drugged him and they said, you're going to sign this contract or, you might take your family hostage. And he was like, I better do this. But yeah, same opinion. I think Huberdeau is going to be great. I could see this team being more defensive this year with guys lowering their point totals, but just being playing that tight neutral zone game that allows them to, have a lot of create a lot of turnovers, play with less space for their opponents. And yeah, overall, I think that could be a fitting strategy where you still have your offensive top line of, like you said, Lindholm, if they want to put Toffoli or Dubé or whoever else on there. But it's so interesting because this team is so deep also,
Yes.
which I
Yep.
think makes them a threat. And I don't think, like I just mentioned him, Dylan Dubé, I don't think he's fully reached his potential yet. And if he does at the contract he's at, he could be an incredible X factor for this team next year. He could be a 40, 50 point guy if he really tried.
I agree. He's playing with a guy like Blake Coleman, who, well, they're on the same team. I don't know if they'll be on the same line, but
Mm-hmm.
Coleman has found production out of nowhere in his career. He built a great career. He's not gifted with skill. He's not a guy
Right.
that just he flashes on tape. But Dubé's another guy that he's gonna have to work to get points. I think seeing a guy like Kadri every day will only help him because Kadri's not a big guy. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Dubé does like to mix it up a little bit. He's a little bit of a pain in the ass on the ice. Majanapani, as you mentioned, this team is they're just deep. They're not going to be easy to play against. They can score goals. And I look at their defense; it's better. Adding Uyghur is a massive add.
Mm-hmm.
You got Anderson, you got my guy Noah Hannafin, Uyghur, you got Zadorov, Tanev, and Valimaki will likely be their starting six defensemen to begin the year at least. We'll see. But I think it's much improved from last season. And you get a throw in Uyghur in a trade. It's a game changer for a defense, which was their weakest part of their team.
Yeah, that looking back at that Dougie Hamilton trade, that might have been the biggest fleecing by Brad Treliving I've ever seen. Because no offense to Mike Furland, he was a good player in his heyday, but I think he left. Dougie Hamilton left,
Yeah.
and now you're stuck, and Calgary stuck with two key pieces, and obviously they're winning playoff rounds, which something the Leafs can say they've done in a long time. Any other notes, or who's? I guess I have one more factor. Who are you most eager to see out of these new guys? Obviously, you have Uyghur on the back end, you have Kadri,
Yeah.
like you said, and then you just mentioned the connection between Lindholm and Hero. Out of those guys, who do you want to see by the most?
I'm going to say Kadri because I want to see where he fits in, who's on his line come opening night. That intrigues me just to see what kind of role he gets. I assume he'll be on the first line power play, but is he directing traffic? Is he is he in the middle of the ice? I hate when he was playing the bumper in Toronto where he's clearly a decoy. It didn't work. So I don't want to see him there, but this team's so skilled you could park him in front of the net. And I think you could find a lot of goals by osmosis by just being there and poking a few home every couple games.
Yeah, absolutely. He's I agree. I think he's going to return back to normal numbers this year, and probably be more in that 60 to 70 point range, which he usually comes up with. Moving on to friend of the show, Casey Ward's favorite team, the Edmonton Oilers.
Right.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting year for the Oilers. Right now, they're a little over in cap, but obviously that also includes Mike Smith and Clefbaum's contracts. So you add those out of the equation. They still have to cut, let's say, shave off some contracts, or in my mind, they try and sell off Neil and Andre Sekera's buyouts.
Right.
They maybe you can give them to Arizona, but you might have to throw in picks in there or something like that.
Right.
But that's got to be done. So Ken Holland's a busy man even before day one, which is something that it's going to happen when you have so many larger contracts. Not too many new pieces other than the re-signing of Kane, but anyone you like on this team that's coming in this year?
Interesting piece, what could be, because the depth of the Oilers has always been bad. It was last year. Kyle Turris is gone from this team. Chris Russell, Josh Archibald never worked. It's always seemed to be a bottom six guy. Matthias Janmark I like Matthias Janmark. He's bounced around the league. He's played in Dallas. He's played in Vegas. I like his game. I think he can play. I think he gives you a solid effort every night. He can score a goal. He's quick. I look at him as a big penalty kill guy. You let him get free, he can score goals on you, and he's not afraid to mix it up in the physical game either. For a European guy, he's definitely not afraid to do it. So I like the Janmark piece coming in because he's something that the team needs.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with Campbell. That's as obviously a Leaf fan, you hate to see him go, but he's going to be very key to this team's success. You think about last year, it's Mike. I mean, you can't always blame the goalie on everything, but Mike Smith was a problem for them when they were playing Colorado, right?
Yep.
So how does Campbell respond? Is he going to be that missing piece that gets them, keeps them competitive and keeps them winning games? Because the times, obviously, offense is just not going to completely run your opponents out the building, and you're going to have to put the walls up and be physical and play a defensive game. And then obviously that comes with also having a great 10D. So yeah, Jack's interesting. He's on a decent deal, but we'll see. What do you think his numbers are like, and what do you think he can do for this team?
First off, I don't think he starts more than 53 games. I start off with that. If he does, I haven't seen him do it consistently. So I have my doubts that he won't get, a groin pull or something this season where he's out for a couple weeks, because that's the data that we have on him so far. Stuart Skinner will get a backup look. I think he's been an NHL goalie for a couple of years, and now he finally gets to play regular with Mike Smith retiring, or whatever you want to call it, being injured. It's a retirement, but he still gets to collect a check this season, so it's a win-win for both. But yeah, I think Jack comes into this season with a chip on his shoulder, and the main reason I say that is because your Leafs did not offer him a contract. They basically said, yeah, we like you, but we like Matt Murray more, the guy who was in the American League about 5 minutes ago. We like him more than you.
Yeah.
And it was a weird pivot because Jack Campbell was loved. They hated Freddie Anderson. Jack Campbell was the savior trade, and they let him go without even offering him anything. So I found that whole transaction extremely weird from Kyle Dubas. And Edmonton scoops him up, gives him a long-term deal. So I think he'll be eager to prove himself and also eager to prove Toronto wrong.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's going to be a laugh right in our face when Edmonton makes it past the first round, even the second round, and Toronto's still waving. They're just going to be waving like this from way back there. They're like, oh, hey, Jack. I have a hypothetical.
Hypothetical? Yeah.
I think Dubas knew all along that Matt Murray was going to struggle in Ottawa, and he said, I'm going to be able to snatch him up for nothing. So he waited, and he knew that finally he was going to get the guy he always wanted, which was Matt Murray. He waited all those years, and he's like, yeah, that's why Jack Campbell never got a contract. Dylan Holloway, guy who played in the AHL, natural hat trick last night. Does he make the team out of camp? Yes or no?
Yes. Okay. Yes. I think
he's going to be a piece.
I think he gets a look. He was injured a lot of last year too. So I think he's a really intriguing piece. We'll see if he can stick around, but to me, he makes the team out of camp because he's a good option to have. I also think Philip Broberg will make the team out of camp.
Team, so obviously younger, and I want to bring this up with you. It seems like those older leadership. So obviously Duncan Keith, Hall of Fame defenseman, retired. He's gone. Besides him, the only, I would say, older guy on the team was Derek Ryan, who you could make a case that he doesn't really have too much experience in the NHL because he came over late. There's not much leadership on this squad. Don't you think that it would have been beneficial for Ken Holland to bring in a different guy? You trade away Cassian, who's into his 30s, and he does bring some aspects that these guys don't have. But do you think that it was a missed opportunity by not bringing in someone with more expertise even in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a good question. You lose Chris Russell too, who's played a lot of games in this league. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think it's a good take, honestly. I like having experienced guys, and you want to have guys that have gone through the war for sure. Maybe it's something they get at the deadline. I will say they did bring in Kulak, who I'm not a huge fan of, but he has been to a Stanley Cup final with Montreal, so he did get there. But yeah, I think that's something they should look into. You can start scouting teams that you think are going to stink early in the season, and kind of scoop up a player, whether it's, you go to Seattle and you look at their players, or even in your division, you can go out east and try to pick out a few teams, New Jersey, that teams that won't make the postseason, and kind of see what defense that you could bring in that has some experience that could bring something to the table.
Putting two together, as you said this earlier, obviously it'd take a lot to get him there because of his $5 million cap. But if Adam Henrique was available and somehow you got him on this team, I think he'd be great in that third line role where he just brings a little bit, but he also, like you said, he'll stick up for teammates. He's been to a cup final. He's got a resume worthwhile enough to bring him over. It would just probably take a lot because you'd have to Anaheim would have to eat so much cap in order to bring him, right?
Yeah, if Anaheim ate half of it, still $2.5 million. So you have to find room for him. Yeah, I totally agree. I think he'd be a really good fit on this team. I mean, you can make any trade work if you have to. You can find money, send it overboard, trade Jake Virtanen for a bag of sticks. I mean, do whatever you have to do to get rid of junk. So that that's another option for the Oilers.
I didn't want to bring his name up, but I'm glad we're still having expense at that.
Yeah.
Interesting guy. Let's move out to Southern California and the home of the Angels. What do you make of LA? They really only brought in one guy, but that one guy, $7.8 million player, Cam Fiala. What's that going to do to this team?
I love him. I like the Kings. I like the Kings a lot. They're my team out west that I'm going to watch a lot that are better than the teams I usually watch. I'm not going to watch them as often as the Sabres, as the team I've chose, but I like this team in Los Angeles. I like the Fiala ad. They needed a scoring winger. They went out and got it. They had to pay a steep price. I think they gave him a good check, a good salary.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of skill on this roster. It's young skill, but there is a lot of skill. And I think he could be a 40-goal scorer this season, and I think he could get 80 points.
That's on the board. We're putting that on the board right now.
Yeah. I think Fiala's big season in Los Angeles.
Okay, I like it. I mean, it's crazy because they weren't. I don't think there was any expectation to make the playoffs last year.
None at all.
The way they played, and the fact that they almost beat the Edmonton Oilers
Game 7
without Drew Doughty, which I think is even more impressive than people give them credit for. Like, just that being said, that is going to make them an expectation to make the playoffs again this year. Yes or no?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, like you said, this isn't a strong division. I think we talked about Edmonton so far and Calgary. I expect both those two teams to make the playoffs. I assume you're going to agree with me on that one.
Yeah.
We talked about Anaheim. They're not going to make it. We'll get through the other teams. I think LA is, just a spoiler, I think they're better than the rest of the other teams in this division. So I think they'll finish third like they did last year, and I think they'll be a better third-place team in this division than they were last year. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, Doughty's health is obviously big. When you love Sean Durzi, who got re-signed this year, Toronto pick, that just eats me alive every time.
They could use them, I'll tell you.
Yeah, especially now. What worries me a little bit, and obviously I need those two guys who are both quality defenders. You got guys like Matt Roy, you got the Sean Walkers, the Mikey Andersons, but I feel like they need that other D-man. Would you be opposed to parting ways with Quick if Patterson played well in order to acquire that? Because he's at a $5 million range. He's on his last contract. This may be his last dance for all we know. He hasn't really said that he's coming back or not. What do you think about that? Or do you think there's too much sentimental value in order to get rid of a franchise goalie like that?
Oh, I'd trade him in half a second. If it's a good deal.
Okay.
You know me. I'm not big on sentimental crap. I'm on winning games. But, yeah, if you can get – I don't disagree with your point. I mean, you look at Mikey Anderson, Sean Durzi, Brant Clark might make the team. I've watched a few. He looks good on defense. I like him as well. You mentioned Drew Doughty. So, yeah, it's a young defense. Jordan Spence, the former Moncton Wildcats, might get some run with the big club as well. So, yeah, I think adding a D that has some experience that could play is another thing that could be valuable for this team. And teams might look for a goalie and panic. For instance, if it doesn't go well for Matt Murray, will the Maple Leafs panic? I don't know, but they might be willing to trade a defenseman that you want. They've done a trade before. Ottawa, they have a tough 5 to 7 weeks. Are they willing to trade any defenseman on their roster? Montreal has some defensemen on that roster. Would Mike Matheson be attractive to any one of these teams? He's been good the last couple years in Pittsburgh. Maybe an LA team would scoop him up the trade deadline. So, yeah, I think Jonathan Quick is a trade piece, potentially, for sure. And also, I just look – I mean, you look at Fiala, Kempe, Kopitar, Trev Moore, Dano, Gabriel Velarde. You got Byfield, Arthur Kaliev is another player I really like, an American. So I like this LA team.
Yeah, not much not to like, and they finally got rid of Andre Athasiu, which I feel like was not that he was a cancer. I won't want to say that because I don't know what he's like in the locker room, but they could have done with him a little watch. Yeah. Not a great guy to tune in for 60 minutes. Any other takes on LA before we move to San Jose?
I expect Kopitar to have a better season than he did last year, points wise. I think he'll get 30 plus goals and 80 plus points.
80 points. Okay, so 80-point seasons for both Fiala and Kopitar.
Yes,
I think they get played together.
Yes.
Okay, so both top line guys. That's going to be interesting. That's Fiala obviously bounced around a little bit. He was in Nashville. Obviously, Minnesota wasn't going to be cap compliant for anyone listening, I guess. And now he's off to a new home again in the sunshine. So let's see. It's going to be an interesting year. LA, like you said, I think will be tough. And I think I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I think that finally we're going to see some major production coming out of what his name on the tip of my tongue? I forgot already. Quinn Byfield. Yeah. I think he could break out. Last year, you could look at his last season and say, you know what, he got injured at the beginning of a preseason game last year. He never got his footing, and maybe it was just like he was running on ice. This year could be different. If he gets into a rhythm, he could even pick that up going forward and then become dangerous. If he's their third line center, that's incredible. That'd be incredible depth down the line. And if he could pick it up like we've seen him play in the OHL before, no doubt he'd be this is a playoff team in my mind as well. Another spoiler.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching him because he's got some interesting characteristics about him, and I think he could have a Lafreniere type jump where Lafreniere took a couple of years, but then you see why he was taken so early in the draft.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to San Jose, they part ways with the bearded man, Brent Burns, finally starting to move past this, I'll call it dead weight that they've put on their back end, the kindest way of saying it. Obviously not a playoff team last year, not really much of a surprise. They add new guys, Luke Kunin, Oscar Limbaugh, Steven Lorentz, Evgeny Shkosnikov, Marcus Navarro, just a couple names to name. What are you taking out of San Jose this year? Obviously, you said they're worse than LA, so I'm guessing that they're not a playoff team for you.
No, not at all. I think they're worse than. I think they could finish last in the division.
Really?
Frankly, yes. Wow, I think they can. I love Hurdle. They re-signed him. He took the money. They still have Vlasic they're never trading that. They need to hope Vlasic just breaks his leg so he can go on injured reserve because honestly, that's their only hope there. Couture, another long-term, that's tough too. I like Couture. He's a great leader, but I mean, come on. And then Erik Karlsson, I mean, he's my favorite player, but again, I don't. That contract hurts. That contract hurts bad. So I hate those deals. It's impossible to really get better short term. And I wonder if San Jose is going to be like Chicago, Shea, where they had some contracts they didn't really like. They have some talent. You got Hurdle. You got Timo Meier, who's a very good player. Does Timo Meier go down the route of an Alex DeBrincat, where he's traded to a contender? Later this season, maybe early next year. It's just something I have in my brain.
Well, he's an RFA after this year. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think this is like you said, San Jose is not making the playoffs if we're being realistic. And I think you're going to get a lot for Timo Meyer. He
Yes.
37 goals last year. He's a premier player. You put him on a good line, and he's only coming in at $6 million.
Right.
That's a steal for what he's gonna want some cash next year. Yes, but if you're a playoff team and you're serious, I think if someone went down early, say even on Colorado or a
Right.
team that was up there, and you said,
Tampa.
Calgary, yes. Is that who he said?
I said Tampa. Like
Oh, Tampa, yeah.
Point was injured for the year. I think Meyer doesn't play center, but he's still a guy that you can plug in a guy to play center. Meyer comes in, plays wing on a
Yeah.
good team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't really hesitate about doing it because you know what you're getting. This guy,
Right.
he's been good for the past number of years, and he's going to play top 6 minutes, and he's going to be productive in the playoffs. That's just his game if he gets there. What's crazy is you think about, okay, well, if you're not going to be able to trade Vlasic, you're going to have to buy him out. But they've got Burns at 2.7 for the next 3 years, and they've got Jones at a minimum of 1.6 for the next 5 years. Those sound like contracts, not buyout options.
Right.
It's struggling. It's a struggling act in San Jose. And they got a new GM in is Weeks his name? Maybe I'm getting
Greer.
Greer. Yes. Greer is the new. He's the new guy there. He's trying to juggle this act, but yeah, it's going to be a tough one. The only highlight of this team is they signed William Eklund, 7th overall pick in 2021. I think he could be a really a bright place for this team. He's he's a classic kind of smaller Swede, but he's got a lot of high-end talent. He's skilled. Hopefully he gets on the team. We saw pieces from last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he played really well. Then he could be a sneaky Calder candidate for this year.
I like it, but yeah, San Jose not a whole lot to bring to the table.
Yeah.
You want Seattle, right? Is that what's next in line here? Seattle.
Yeah. Do you want to skip over Seattle or?
No, I don't.
No, I'm just.
No, I don't. I think Seattle.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Say Seattle Kraken. They drafted Shane Wright, as you all remember. Shane Wright, the stare down. They added Ryan Donato, Michael Kempney, Andre Burakovsky, one of their bigger deals that they've given out since they became a franchise. Martin Jones brought in to be a new backup goalie. They got Oliver Bjorkstrand in a steal of a trade from the Columbus Blue Jackets, which is highway robbery. And they had Justin Schultz for some reason. The reason I like them a little bit. I think this team is going to be able to score some goals. Here's why. Matty Beniers is NHL ready. He's going to play this year. I think he scores 25 in his rookie year. So there's 25. Okay. Oliver Bjorkstrand scores 20, and he knows how to play in bad teams because he's done it in Columbus for the last number of years. He scored 20 this year for Seattle.
Yeah.
Jordan Eberle will score 15 to 20 goals. He does it every year. He finds a way to do it. I got Ebbs, 15 to 20. Jaden Schwartz, if he can stay healthy, he's a 18 to 20 goal scorer. There's 18 to 20 goals right there. And Burakovsky will score 16 to 20. So I look at those guys. That's 5 guys scoring at least 20 goals. I'm not saying you're going to be great, but I think they'll be able to score. Might not be able to keep it out of the net, but I think they'll be able to score some goals.
But is that a good thing? Is that a good thing for a team that's just getting their feeding underway and just, I'm not saying you have to go for Bedard. You have good young talent, but do you feel like they should be less successful than they are going to seem?
Yeah, I think they'll still lose a lot, but it's tough because, like I mentioned, Anaheim, I'm not sure they're better than Seattle. I think it's close. San Jose, I don't think they're better than Seattle, quite frankly. I just don't. If San Jose should start Aaron Dell every game, they're guaranteed to finish in the bottom 3. And you go through it. The West isn't as tough as the East in my mind, so you're going to play some bad teams in there. It's not the best thing, but I think Matty Beniers, I think some of these young guys are gonna. You can't stop them from playing hard. So it's really hard to be as bad as Arizona. That's the part of the problem too. and
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah. If you were trying to match how bad Arizona was going to be, half attendance, and I don't know, just just
Plus,
just
I
do
think you
something.
want to sell seats too if you're Seattle. You want people to go.
Fair,
If you're
yeah,
terrible every game, you need to build up that fan base.
fair. That's also fair. I love about a lot of this team is that they're in their mid-20s. They're not
Hmm.
a bunch of old guys. So when this team starts to pick up and the cap goes up also, a lot of these
Right.
contracts are going to look really good. Burakovsky's contract's going to look really good. Borkstrand's contract's going to look really good. Even
Hmm.
if they get they're 30, 32, and they're in that range. By the time these young guys start picking it up and increase the value of the team and get better, they're going to be a competitive roster with all these contracts that they're. Jared McCann's another guy, 27
Yep.
goals, and he probably, just like on your list, he'll probably get 20. So you know what I mean? Like those are good contracts for the future. But yeah,
Yep.
they'd be in the mid range, maybe to the lower end. Get a half decent pick. If you can get a top 10 pick, that would be probably for the best.
Yeah, I agree. I think they will. I just think they'll be. I think they're more watchable than people think. That's what I'll say. I think this team will be funner to watch. They might play terrible defense, but they'll score a bunch of goals. So you see a lot of 6-4 games, which is funner than 9-1 drubbings of Arizona.
Right. Does Grubauer make a comeback, or is he going to be back in the dumps?
God, yeah, that's the one contract that is so hard to look at for Seattle because I think they did a pretty good job otherwise.
Right.
I don't have a whole lot of faith in Philip Grubauer. Was never a starting goaltender in Washington and was paid starting goaltender money. Coming from Colorado where he did it for half a second. So I don't love that.
Okay. So no
Yeah.
no on Grubauer
No,
doing
no,
anything
no, no
productive.
on Grubauer. No, no on Grubauer. No.
Okay. Well, let's move over to a place that's not far from Seattle. The Vancouver Canucks missed the playoffs last year. They started to pick it up with your boy Brucey Boudreau, the sexiest man, I guess, when it comes to
Bruce,
head
there it
coaching.
is.
um, what do you make of this team? Mikheyev coming over from the Leafs, Curtis Lazar from Boston, and Kuzmenko from Russia. God knows where in Russia.
Yeah.
Anything attractive about those names or anything new? I guess.
I will say Kuzmenko. I've watched their game last night. I've seen him play in the preseason a few times. He's intriguing. He's very crafty. You're hoping to find something in a Russian. One of these guys that comes over. It does happen. Kaprizov was great. You also have the stories of Mikheyev, who was soupy, but he's turned into a good career for himself. There's
Mm.
guys that flash. There's your boy in Vegas who got bought out after two games because he got
Oh
cut.
yeah, Shipanov
That
or
yeah,
Shipakov, is that his name?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He never made it. So you gotta. I think Kuzmenko will play, get an opportunity to play, likely in the top six. I look at the team. JT Miller, I mentioned before. I think his production goes down this year. I'm not saying he's a terrible player, but he had a contract season last year, and he made sure to let Vancouver know. They gave him the cash. Good on him. But I think his production will be low. Besser, who the hell knows? They re-signed Besser. He's just a frustrating player because he can be so great, and then other times he doesn't even care. It seems. And I still hate their defense core. That's my biggest part. I think Demko is a great goaltender, but it's like working all the time. Eventually, you burn out, and you're gonna have a tough stretch in there where you can't play 950 save percentage type goaltending.
Yeah. God, it's awful because I want them to succeed, but this decor, I really feel lacks them from doing so. OEL, that was such a tough, like
Ooh,
that looking back, that's such a tough trade. They tried to get rid of Garland last year. That wasn't possible. He's probably going to be on the roster this year because
yep.
I don't know who will take him. And OEL, that contract's never leaving your sight because it's awful. I don't even know if he had 30 points last year. And
Yeah,
this
I was.
guy's a guy.
I don't think he did.
Yeah, and he gets what? He gets paid almost the same amount of money as like a. He was getting paid similar to Victor Hedman for all those.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Until he came over. So, yeah, it's a weak back end. They don't got much. They got Luke Shen, who's a good veteran piece, who's going to be able to kill penalties and beat people up if he needs to. Tucker
Right.
Poolman's not a bad piece either. He got injured last year, but I think he is a good defensive defenseman, which
Hmm.
they'll need because of guys like because of guys like Hughes, who is more run and gun and creating offense. So
They also
yeah,
added your boy Trav Dermott coming over from the Leafs.
does he make the team?
Probably.
He's so bad. He's
Yeah.
so bad. He's the only guy I think I root for his demise is just because he's just so terrible. And he was so bad for the Leafs for so long. He's probably a good guy. I think he's a good teammate, but yeah, he's not worth the 1.5 they traded him for.
No. No, he probably does make the team because you gotta keep him up. Plus, they don't have any great options below, so it's
Fair.
not like you're plugging in somebody that has a whole lot of value.
Yeah.
But yeah, Garland's is a contract that they already tried to trade 6 months into getting it. Besser, Mikheyev got way too much money. He's a good player, but I wouldn't have given him $4.5 million. No way in hell I'm giving him that. And I'm looking. Vasily Podkolzin is a guy for me to watch this year. I loved him when he played at the juniors. He's a captain of Mother Russia twice. He's a good physical guy. I think he can be a really good third line center in this league, and I want to see if he can up his point production this year for
He
Vancouver.
did have a decent year last year. I kind of hope he went
Yeah,
from. I hope he goes from 15 to 20. If he can get 20 goals this year, that'd
yeah,
be a major bonus for him. He's a big, strong kid, and I agree he does have a lot of potential. What about Nils Hoglander? This is a guy who experienced an
yeah.
injury last year. I would say popped off, but he had a good first year, and then he followed up with maybe a slightly less of a good year than the first. Does he pop back again, or is he going to be a guy that's kind of always going to be known as coming in hot and then fizzling out?
I think he'll be a depth guy in the NHL. I could see him going from team to team. We see these guys; they do add value, but they're not on long term contracts. They don't have a whole lot of stability. Like
Mm-hmm.
you said, his injury history. He's small,
He
and
is
he's not a
small.
particularly physical player, so that hinders your ability to really get a whole lot of traction.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see if Kuzmenko does pop off, like you said, becomes a real
Mhm.
threat.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's coming over on a 1 year deal at the minimum, but if he could be a big ticket for these guys if they're able to move some contracts around. Let's go to the probably, for me anyways, it's the most intriguing team of this division
Mm,
because you don't know what the hell's going to happen. The Vegas Golden Knights missed the playoffs just barely last year. They fired their head coach. They get a new head coach. They add a legend of the game, Phil Kessel and Aiden Hill.
Another legend.
And yeah. What do you make of this team and where do they lie in these standings?
Wow, that's a question. Yeah, this start, you got Robin Leonard, Nolan Patrick, long-term IR. Nolan Patrick's career might be over. Terrible story. I feel horrible for the kid. Health is the biggest thing on this team. Eichel, health. Mark Stone, health. Shea Theodore, health. Chandler Stevenson, health. All these guys are really, really good. Shea Theodore is one of the best defensemen in the NHL, period. I love him. He brings everything to the table. Eichel can be a top 10 player if he wants to be. I'm interested to watch him with a full season in Vegas, playing with some crafty guys. I will say, you get Eichel, you can separate him, then you get Wild Bill Karlsson, you can get Stone on a different line. So I think your center position is so much stronger. You also got Chandler Stevenson, who can be a number two, which is what he is. He's not a number one center, but if he is your number two, that's a position of strength. I like the team. Goaltending is where I kind of stop and go. Aiden Hill, Hutch Daddy,
Logan Thompson.
Logan Thompson, Laurie Brassois.
Yeah.
There's no starter there. There's fringe number twos there. Logan Thompson hasn't proven to be an NHL goaltender yet. He played last year because everybody was hurt and they couldn't bring anybody else up because they had no money. So is there a team that can help Vegas if they start out to a good season to get a goaltender, because you're not winning. You might make the playoffs, but you're not winning anything with these three guys in net.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The most intriguing thing is Logan Thompson. Obviously, he's not proven, but can he prove himself to be? Obviously, we've seen in the past where guys just pop off and
Yeah.
they like Jack Campbell when he came over from Toronto. It's a perfect example of a guy I never thought was going to be able to be a starting goaltender, and he proved me
Fair
wrong.
point. Yeah.
I think a big thing, if even if your goaltending is just average, which that could be hard to believe right now with looking what's on paper, you do have to realize that a healthy Mark Stone could make or break this team. Even if
Yep.
Eichel, we've seen in Buffalo, Eichel can be amazing, and the team's not going to go anywhere. Mark Stone is a key piece to this team. He's hurt last year. He only played 37 games, but he's productive. He's a former. Geez, I'm losing it.
Selke.
Former Selke winner, and he's such an asset at what he's getting paid, but he needs to stay healthy. Obviously, it's the biggest thing we see with players like that who play on that physical edge.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, it takes a toll on their bodies, and they aren't able to keep up. Patrice Bergeron's a fine example of someone who played through pain and did it all times through his career, but it does take a toll on your body. We're seeing it now with Sean Couturier in Philadelphia. He just can't stay healthy, and that's why he plays that game often. I really hope for Mark Stone's sake that he does, because he's one of the smartest players. He's not flashy. He's got nothing crazy about his game, but he's just wicked smart when it comes to both offense and defensive strategies. Is management going to be in big trouble here? Kelly McCrimmon going to be in big trouble if they miss the playoffs again?
Yeah, I think they go. I think McCrimmon and the president of hockey ops both could go, because you fired the coach. That was your bullet. You flew it, and you signed these contracts. Like, you got Petro long term, you got Shea long term. Alec Martinez is on this. Like, I like their defense core a lot. I still do. White Cloud to me is just scratching the surface. I think he can improve even more. But you look at McNabb, serves his purpose. I like him. He's a nasty piece of business. I mean, he's a guy multiple teams would want if Vegas did fall off, and if Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson can't stop a beach ball, I think McNabb would be a guy that teams would be looking at. But yeah, I think heads will roll from the management side if they don't win. But I do trust Bruce Cassidy to have success. He had success in his first year with the Bruins. They fired Claude Julien. Canada came out of nowhere. Cassidy came in. He had instant success. So I think we could see the same thing happen with Vegas. And maybe it's just playing a different style where defensively you see a back check from forwards. You have guys that are closer into the zone, so that it's a team that gives up 24 shots a game, and it's not a team that gives up 33 shots a game.
I agree. Yeah. Eichel over under 90 points. Full healthy season, mind you, not the
he's too good. I'm gonna go over.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he does. He's too good. Like, I think he's too good of a player not to. Like, we forget how good he is when he really wants to be.
Let's hope. For his sake, a healthy Jack Eichel is needed in the league, and something we haven't had in quite a while. So I agree. I hope he's back in full fashion. Do you want to rank our 1 to 8, or you want to leave that for another time?
No, we can in this. Sure, yeah. Let's do this division. You can start us off.
Okay, I am gonna go Edmonton for my number 1. I think getting the goaltender on top of what they already have, I think that's going to put them over the edge, plus the depth piece. The Flames, number 2. Then I'm going to go with your LA team. I agree with you. Stronger third team than they've normally been.
Yep.
And then I'm going to go Vancouver at 4.
Okay.
I think Vancouver and Vegas are like neck and neck, but I'm going to go Vancouver, and then I'm going to go Vegas. It's tough. That's a tough one. I'm going to go. God. I know you give him a lot of shit, but I'm gonna go San Jose. San
Okay.
Jose. I got San Jose, Seattle, and then the
Anaheim.
Ducks. I feel like the Ducks know that they can't be good because think they know they want to grab that one
Right.
last top 5 draft pick so that they can
Right. Yeah.
just be unbelievable in a couple of years. So yeah, and Seattle, I don't think Seattle's going to try to be bad, but I just think that they don't have the defense and goaltending clearly to compete with a lot of these guys. But yeah, that's for me.
Okay. Yeah, this is tricky. So I'm gonna start with. I'm gonna go with the Flames, and Edmonton's close. It is close for me. I like them. I'm gonna go Calgary, Edmonton, of course. My Kings third, so third there. I'm gonna go Vegas 4. I think Vegas. I'm still gonna look at the Central. I'm gonna do that division preview Friday. Some good teams over there. I think it's gonna be a dogfight for these teams in the Pacific to make the postseason. Better be one of those top 3 because I think it's gonna be tough. But I got Vegas 4. I'm gonna go Vancouver 5, Seattle 6th, Anaheim, and then the San Jose Sharks.
Okay, I'm not doing my Sharks any favors, but it's tight.
Yeah,
That young guy is gonna pop off. Might be something special.
yeah,
So
Shane Wright popping off.
yeah. So Seattle finished 6th, Anaheim, and then San
Yeah,
Jose. Okay.
and San Jose. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Shane Wright will be back in junior by November 1st.
Okay, November. So you heard it. By the end of the month, this guy is gonna come up and he's gonna make a fool of himself, maybe poop his pants, and then leave.
I just think he's not ready to play yet. And Mason McTavish got sent back. He was the 3rd overall pick, 3rd, 4th, not a big difference there. He might have said goodbye to the people in London last year. He might have said, sayonara to his billet family. Well, get that bed ready because Shane Wright's coming back. He's not ready to play in the NHL yet.
Yeah, he'll take a couple pictures with that new mascot maybe, and then he'll peace out. Scary thing. Before I leave you here, did you see the comments by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on Kyrie Irving?
I did not. What did he say?
I'll just read this. This is I just knew you'd find this interesting. He goes, Kyrie Irving would be dismissed as a comical buffoon if it weren't for his influence on young people who look up to athletes. There's another one here. And he goes further into detail. When I look at some of the athletes who have used their status to actually improve society, and then he names off some, it becomes clear how much Irving has tarnished the reputation of all athletes who strive to be seen as more than dumb jocks.
Wow. That's a critique right there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with him. I think he's acted like a small child on a lot of these times. He's doesn't show up for. We've gone through his behavior and how childish he is, how inappropriate, how selfish he is. The flat Earth thing doesn't help the old intelligence meter. So I think Kareem definitely hits it on the square pole there. Yeah, I think that's fair, and I like that Kareem is not afraid to call out anybody. He called out LeBron back in the day, I think, for his interactions with China, which good. Nobody else did, but somebody had to. So good for Kareem. You're 70, 80 years old, whatever. Like, you don't play anymore. Kyrie's going to clap back at Kareem? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
good luck.
Who's had the better career, Kareem or Kyrie? No, I agree with you. I if anything, it could be a wake up call for Kyrie Irving. I know he probably won't see it that way, but it has become almost tomfoolery how dumb it seems to everybody else, but to him it must seem like he's doing the right thing. Like, if the whole world or most people think that you're just acting like a child, then there's probably a really good chance that you are acting like a child. Just own up to it. No, I just saw that. And that was interesting to me. I hope for his team's sake that he can get his head out of his ass this year, because they needed him last year, and they're going to need him if they want to be a contender this year.
Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you: have you seen any of Dahmer yet?
I
The
have,
show on
yes.
Netflix.
Yeah, I'm on the Dahmer kick. I've watched that's me and Kennedy's new show. She's a big crime junkie, so I've hopped on. We've watched the first couple episodes. It is bizarre. We'll say that. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a crazy in a time where there was just multiple serial killers going around that this guy just roamed free basically because people would call the cops on him all the time, and it was like, oh, we checked on him, nothing to report here. This is all
Right.
good. Like
Yeah.
just a creep. I mean, just down to every science. But yeah, there's some people are just built different. Have you watched it? What are your thoughts?
I'm 4 episodes in, and I thought last night I watched 3 episodes of this show, like back to back to back. Like, how sick of a human being am I that I'm watching this? Like
But
the
you must
first,
have found it good.
it's compelling. I think Ethan Peters, who's playing Dahmer, is fantastic. Is acting. He's already won an Emmy. He won't be nominated because of the show is getting bad reviews and people are upset that they made it. That's what happens when you do a serial killer show. Should be. He won't. But incredibly compelling. I will say that. And yeah, his acting's great. They got Richard Jenkins, who played the father and
Yeah.
stepfather, is in it. His stepbrothers is in it. I love his acting. He's added some funny to this. But yeah, what a strange human being. And one of the when he says to the young guy that he drugs, who eventually turns him in, that I'm going to eat your heart. That was one of the most chilling things I've ever seen in all my time watching TV.
Did all the hair on your neck just immediately just go like this? Because
Yes.
I was, yeah, I know that was awful. Like you put yourself in that man's shoes, trying to find a way to escape that.
Yeah.
Like that must have been yeah, gave me anxiety from the my couch. I can't imagine how he was feeling. And at the end of the day, it's a sickening thing that all those young men had to die for this guy's pleasures and
Yeah.
obviously his fantasies. But yeah, I'm glad that there's less serial killers now than there was 40 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. Oh yeah. I'm gonna finish it because why not? I'm
Oh, if you
four
start it,
episodes in.
yeah, you might as
Yeah.
well.
So got 6 left. Probably watch a few tonight because why? Again, why not? But Shay, awesome. Next week we'll do our top 10. We'll talk about breakout stars, and we'll just do an overall season preview because the puck drops in 7 days.
I'm sure we'll be laughing at some of the top 20 pick from TSN as well. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see who makes that. No, appreciate your takes and looking forward to that next week. Enjoy the rest of your week and the weekend.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving, buddy.
Thank you. You as well. See ya.
There's Shamus Fillmore, everybody. Great to see him as we do every Tuesday. Yeah, real good, thorough breakdown of the Pacific Division today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I will be doing the Metro solo tomorrow. I'll also be doing winners and losers of the NFL Week 4, talk about some college football big stories. I'll do an overview of MLB, of where teams stand in the wild card, and I'll touch on that Thursday before Matt Wright joins for Big Money Thursday. Normally Big Money Fridays, but he's going to be available. Thursday, we're going to do Big Money Thursday. And then on Friday, I'll be finishing this series of preview podcasts when I do the Central Division in the National Hockey League. And we'll also talk about the beginning of the MLB postseason. So lots more content coming this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the first 2 pods of this week so far. And enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Here on To The Point.